Okay, so our first question is, how did Luther Vandross's style and music approach evolve throughout his career? Can you identify key moments or albums marking significant changes in his career?
I guess I'll start since I'm on this end.
I feel like I looked at you, I was like, yeah.
I wrote some notes, cheat notes, but I don't think I'll have to look at them. I think, his biggest evolution came very early on. He had been singing forever, as we saw in the film. He'd been singing since, doing Sesame Street, doing all the jingles, singing backup vocals, and he recorded 2 albums with his band Luther that were very deeply seated in 70s R&B and soul, and that was not Luther's sound. They were great albums. There's some wonderful stuff on them, but it wasn't Luther's sound. And then he went to his first band, the disco band, and that became a little closer to what he was going to do, but nothing like that, what we consider the first solo album now. It's a totally different sound. That was the sound, that was Luther Vandross. The others were, Luther Vandross had a wonderful voice. He played with great musicians, but the first solo album was the unveiling of Luther Vandross. And I think that's the biggest evolution there.
Thank you, thank you. Ashley?
I'm a,
So my opinion, so you exit that disco era and talk about the song Never Too Much. Essentially, that song is pop melodies under funk rhythms. So to be a radical as that for your first, not your first album, your first song and your first album, and for it to be #1, it's like, okay, I understand everything mainstream, I understand everything white, I'm gonna make it black as possible, and it's gonna be, y'all gonna love it. So you take that and evolve that into the Luther Vandross ballad, which is something that cannot be duplicated, because you take, from a music maker's perspective, hit songs are the easiest to make because it's instinctive. You know what your ear likes, you know what your body reacts to. So for ballads, those are the hardest songs to make because every second has to have intensity on the slowest tempo. So with that being said, every second mattered with the Luther Vandross ballad, and we just don't have that anymore. So what he was doing was something so radical, but so inclusive. He, like y'all saw in the movie, he had to write, he had to sing, he had to direct it, because if anybody else had another hand or deciding factor, it wouldn't be what we know and love today.
Well, all right. Thank you for that answer. The next question I have is, how has Vandross's discography addressed the Black experience with love and identity?
how'd you know? Wow, I think, so definitely grew up listening to a lot of Whitney, a lot of Luther, a lot of funk, and I think it set me up for an interesting dating life because I had a standard. Love songs love had to feel like these love songs that I'm hearing. And if it didn't feel like that, oh baby, we were moving on. Like it was okay. If it didn't feel like Here and Now, if it didn't feel like Don't You Know, like if it didn't feel like that, I wasn't staying around. Even at my young teeny bopper age in high school, I'm like, nope, it doesn't feel like Always and Forever. I'm done. So in a way, Luther's influence on love music and the just feeling of love shaped how I allow it into my life and how I seek it. And I was able to find my beautiful wife right here, P. And I tell her, like, one of my compliments to her is you make love feel like a love song. And that was something that really has carried. I do attribute a lot of my feelings with love and how it's supposed to feel and dance and move to Luther Vandross.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anybody else want to answer this question?
I would say to that, Luther Vandross is important because he allowed black people to be soft. There's a softness that comes with our joy. There's a softness that comes with our loss. There's a softness that comes with our intimacy. And Jamie Foxx said it, he didn't even have to speak it. He just let the song play, and you got it. So at a time where black people, well, still are, but especially back then too, our image was so political. Luther made it universal and gave validity to it, to the mainstream audience.
Okay. All right. Mark, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I don't think I can add a lot to, to how, you know, how the narrative worked for me as a black human being, because I'm not black. But I will say, I think the narrative, the Luther narrative was not told correctly. It was told correctly within black culture and on black radio, but it wasn't told correctly in mainstream culture, which is why he was so frustrated sometimes he wanted that crossover. And it's our fault, music journalists. Luther Vandross was never on the cover of Rolling Stone, not even when he died. I mean, you know, Rolling Stone puts everybody on the cover when they die, right? But not Luther Vandross. He struggled to be not accepted. It wasn't a struggle for black listeners, but it was a struggle for white music journalists like me to take him seriously. Now, white music critics had taken Otis Redding, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, all these people seriously from way, way back in the day. But when the 80s came around and R&B started changing, you'd get a lot of white critics saying, he's too slick, he's too smooth. And to me, when I look back and translate that, it's like, stay back in your place, in the church, hoot and holler, you know, play that gritty, country, funky Otis Redding stuff, but don't put sparkling outfits on and start to be debonair, you know. And so the narrative, I think, when it came to music journalism, it wasn't until Vibe and people like my friend, Lord, I can't remember her name right now, who edited, but Danielle, right, Smith. It wasn't until Danielle Smith and writers like Nelson George and Greg Tate and all these writers arrived in like the later 80s and then throughout the 90s that the narrative changed and music and R&B was taken a lot more seriously. But Luther Vandross fell through the cracks during that period, and it's our fault, I think.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that perspective. Okay, let's see here. In what ways is Luther Vandross's legacy still evident in today's music industry, and how do new artists pay homage to his work? Additionally, what was his most significant influence on soul and R&B music?
That's me? Okay. If I had to put Luther Vandross's importance in one word, it would be that he is signature, meaning that for an artist to be an artist, there are things that come before you, there are things that'll happen after you, but what will happen when you step to the microphone, when you cut your demo, when you make your record, when you put pen to paper. And I think the integrity that Luther ran with and led with is something that all artists should lead with. You don't have to, nobody's telling you to make a house is not a home, because chances are you can't. But I do believe that every artist has something in them, and their responsibility is to offer what they feel led to do. And as far as the music industry is changing. The 80s as a whole were an era. Technology has changed 3 times in Luther's career, majorly. Streaming came out in 2015. In 2020, music changed again. In 2022, music changed again. In 2024, music is changing again. So as far as new artists, my only thing is I think if we're going to honor Luther in any way, as artists, we should make time to live because of the times are so rapid. We have all this collective experience, but we as artists don't have time to live because we work in marketing, essentially. So a song is marketing for Come See Me Live. The songs are free, so what are you paying for? That benefit us. And with all that being said, I think the human experience when it comes to life is a lot more passive than it used to be via cell phones, social media, so on and so forth. So you might want to go and tell Instagram something before you tell your mother something. So I think if you are going to honor Luther in any way, take time with your art, take time with yourself, take time with your life.
Wise words. Thank you for that. Okay, our last question here is, August is Black Philanthropy Month. The Luther Vandross Foundation provides scholarships to students at historically Black colleges and universities. Why do you think philanthropy work is essential, and in what ways have similar actions helped you in your careers from the generosity of others?
I mean, I could definitely, as a proud product of an HBCU, Winston-Salem State University, I don't know where I would be without my HBCU. It was a life-changing experience, and I would not have gotten there without the generosity of the people in my hometown, my home church. My grandfather cut me a check to stay in school. The church rallied behind me to get me my school supplies and all the tie that I could ever need. So the work that's being done through the foundation to support these institutions that are largely needing the support from all types of donors, it's life-changing. I was able to grow so much. I was able to experience so much. I was able to go on my first flight in college due to being in school. I was able to serve my institution as Miss WSSU my senior year and serve as a HBCU queen and meet other HBCU queens. And I am still close to them now, 10 plus years later. And that experience has changed my life. It has changed how I interact in the world. And knowing that there's a foundation connected so closely that supports HBCUs, it's transformative, and I'm a product of that generosity, and I'm always pushing it forward. So that's my experience.
Wonderful. Did either of you want to add anything else to that?
For as long as there is inequality, there is a need for community. So I've partied at Winston-Salem State, but that's about it. And so I think that outside of, well, college included, but outside of college, it goes down to the neighborhoods, your churches, your schools, your homes, and all that stuff. And I think for me personally, just caring. Because at the end of the day, all of what we're talking about is just love. And that's all we as humans need. So love has impacted me significantly for the simple fact of realizing self-worth, for being the fuel to dream, to be radical, to be in a city where music is not prioritized, but still say, hey, I'm gonna make a name for myself. And to just exchange and deposit that same love into others. So when I grow, it's not just me growing, it's us that's growing. So we could be here all day talking about the benefits for real, but at the end of the day, it's just love is needed and love is present.
Wonderful.
Hey, I was just going to say that I think you could combine the last two questions. Where do you see Luther Vandross's influence today? It's in the students that come out of schools. It's in the students that his philanthropy has benefited. It's in the creativity that's encouraged by this philanthropic stuff.
I agree. Okay, well, this wraps up our panel discussion. Thank you, panelists here. But we are going to open up the floor to anyone else in the audience that may have questions for our panelists. Anybody? Okay.
This movie basically has been out for about a year, and it's been in independent film. Um, So why do you think it hasn't, like, resonated with the broader community? We see it paralleled, like, from his life, too, that he really wanted that crossover. And it's still being denied, even from a filmmaking perspective. So can you speak a little bit about that? Or marketing?
Yeah, well, marketing, and also, it's the same old stuff. It's the same thing that caused him from being on the cover of Rolling Stone even when he died, you know? It's this, it's crazy because the man crossed over multiple times eventually, and he had multiple number ones on R&B charts, and even more multiple top tens. It's not like you have to explain his importance. All you have to do is listen to him and look at the names of the songs. But there is that. I think she had the same. I think Dawn had the same issues that he had in getting through that whatever it is, that thing that he couldn't get through. And it's not like every artist couldn't get through that, but their name had to be Jackson, you know, or they had to be Prince, who was kind of rock, you know. But yeah, I think she had the same issue with him that he had himself.
Anyone else? Do you want the mic?
One thing that was, how can I say, it was like a revelation to me that he was a genius. Do you think that he suffered from some of the stigma that geniuses suffer from when people want to put them in a box and they're not sure what to do with them?
That's you.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Well, as Trey did with my introduction, I've lived a couple different lives. And multifaceted is a buzzword right now. And I was complimented with it, and I was like, thank you so much. But I really just feel like I am living the life experience. I want to live a full life experience. If that involves me writing a song one day, because I want to try writing a song, I'll write a song. If I want to shoot a music video, I got with some friends that wanted to shoot a music video and shot a music video last week. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm a music video director, but I did something and I tried it and I liked it. And I think when you have a diverse pool of gifts, and someone does try to like, oh, we're gonna give you this title. And it's like, oh, but I don't just do that. I don't wanna stay there. So when you have that wide pool of gifts, it can get challenging. But how I have been maneuvering my life lately is, hey, these are the gifts that I was born with that I'm good at. Here are the gifts that I've learned. And then I apply those as well. And it was really equated to living a full life experience the best way I can. I wanna hear well done, just like most of us. And I do that through my marketing. I'm a digital marketer. I like helping to tell their story, whether it's their brand, their business, their idea, their nonprofit. I work with a number of different organizations to help mold and craft their brand identity with my wife. It's what we do for our business. We build graphic design. We're graphic designers, websites, apparel, products. We want to help people in ways that businesses that are owned by us haven't normally been helped with, and that is the marketing, that is the promo, that's what every artist and things like that clam up. They're like, I don't know the business part. And it's like, you do. So when you're someone that has just a diverse pool of talent, it can get frustrating. But I think if you and we saw it, Luther was just like, yeah, these are just all the things that I do. And you love it, and thank you for loving it. And when you're able to kind of take that bold stance and say, hey, I understand that singer is where you want to place me, but baby, I compose, I can arrange, I might even design this album cover. And just that, I think we were able to see that freedom blossom. And it was inspiring for someone like me who considers themselves someone who has a diverse pool of talents and gifts, to really just be like, hey, I can really do all of this. There's some things that I probably shouldn't. I did try to go to animation school for like 1 semester because I thought I wanted to make a cartoon, and it was a fun time. But having the freedom to try and to mess up and to laugh and to have another life experience and a life story to tell, I think we got to see that delight with Luther as well.
And then one thing I want to speak to when she mentioned like that genius aspect, there is a fine line between caring and obsession that not a lot of people understand. What I can only liken it to is fishing. So you could be out there all day just looking for something, but when that joint catch and it's wild, you gotta hold on to it. But in holding on to it, sometimes you gotta know when to reel it in too. So with that being said, in that genius conversation, you may not be the best communicator of the idea that you are pursuing. The people that may not see your vision as you see it may not be as on board because they don't see it in the same way you do, and the communication hasn't been as clear with them for them to understand. So in some cases, yeah, that can rub people the wrong way. And he may have gotten some pushback or some flack because of that, because he was a genius. You know, we see it with Kobe, we see it with Kanye, we see it with everybody handles their genius differently. So I just think it's a case-by-case scenario with the person that you're talking about.
I just want to interject here. We're going to wrap up the conversation. Give a warm round of applause to our wonderful panel. Also, you guys, the NGAP organization has a table set up, is out in the lobby. Kathy and Lisa, please stop by and scan the QR code so you can be tapped into what the organization is doing during this month. But I thank you all for coming out. You've been a fantastic audience, and we got another screening right after this one. So thank you guys.
And can we give Trey a big round of applause for putting on this amazing event? Thank you.